On April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded after reheating. This released radioactivity to the air, water, and ground, contaminating not only Chernobyl and the rest of Ukraine, but neighboring countries as well. The threat level reached Stage 7, the last and most deadly stage of all, marking this nuclear accident as the worst in history. This type of pollution is uncleansable, meaning it will stay on Earth until it naturally diminishes. The radiation will contaminate any living organism that crosses its path. On humans, it may cause early death, chronic illness, cancer, deformities on newborns, and others.
In Chernobyl, this pollution is not present anymore since it has diminished over time, but it was still lingering until 2004. Radiation-caused illnesses will still affect generations to come since some forms of the illness are hereditary. The very recent nuclear catastrophe in Japan has polluted the world with radiation again. No one knows when the radiation will diminish, but authorities have taken extreme measures to protect people. Areas with high risk of contamination have been cleared, people with radiation are being treated, and they have made sure that the news has traveled globally so the general population takes precaution. Pollution from Japan will linger for many years, but with the thousands of running nuclear power plants and their wastes spread through every continent, chances are that we'll always have a small percentage of the pollution in the world. Even if it's not in all parts, it will be in some.
You can find nuclear energy in the core of an atom, but to get electricity out of it, the energy must be released. There are two processes that can release the energy. Nuclear fusion, that is still in its experimental stage, but it is when two atoms merge or fuse together, and nuclear fission is when atoms split to release energy. The atom of uranium is used because the mineral is easy to find and cheap. So, nuclear fusion is when two atoms split. So in this diagram, you can see how the uranium atom is splitting, and in each split, energy is released. This is a simple diagram of how a power plant works. You can see that around the reactor core or the uranium atoms, there are metal rods that heat up when the energy is released. These metal rods heat up so much that they boil the water and evaporate it. Then the steam of the evaporated water will go up the tubes into the turbine, and it will power the turbine and it will give electricity. Then this water is recondensed back into the main tank where the reactor core and the uranium is found. This water serves two purposes. One is to power the turbine and give electricity once it is evaporated into steam. The second one is so that it cools the reactors from overheating and exploding when it's in its condensated form. So, how is this pollution created? The main reason why this pollution is created is because something went wrong in the system. Even though many precautions are taken, sometimes this happens. In Chernobyl, they were running some testings, and the people there didn't notice that the reactors were heating up and the cooling system was off. So when the reactors overheated so much, the cooling system didn't work, and its capacity, once it was turned on, couldn't cover the heat that the reactors were sending. So it heated up so much that the reactor exploded. This sent radiation all over the environment. Similar accidents like this are those in Fukushima and the 3 Mile Island. Again, the cooling system couldn't cool out the reactors that had overheated, and this caused an explosion. Radiation and nuclear energy aren't only used to give electricity to the world. They're also used to build nuclear weapons, such as the bombs that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end World War II. These bombs left traces of radioactivity in Japan. Also, nuclear waste from power plants and trials of weapons leave traces of radiation in the environment. Protecting nuclear power may be expensive and demanding, but there is no existing energy source that compares to the amount of energy it gives. Nuclear power plants will stay in existence even when coal and oil burning power plants won't. Only 1 ton of uranium produces more energy than several million tons of coal. This source of energy is reliable, and it doesn't create much waste. Nuclear plants don't pollute or contribute to the greenhouse gases, only if they're safe, well maintained, and all precautions are taken to prevent accidents. Society was greatly affected by this accident. It was one of the most horrible and catastrophic nuclear accidents in history. This lifted consciousness about accidents regarding nuclear energy. Regulations about precautions and security were tightened. People had to move away from their hometowns and neighborhoods because of fear they would get contaminated of radiation, and also for security. There was a lot of physical and emotional damage. People got scared, they were feared, their newborns suddenly were had cancer, were deformed. It was a horrible situation, and it can still happen. So it's a really